I'd like to bring the council special meeting for Monday, January 27th to order at 3 o'clock. I want you to understand that this meeting is being video recorded, and by remaining in the room, you're giving your permission to be televised. This meeting will be videotaped and broadcast on Spectrum Cable Channel 3 and Frontier Files Television Channel 47 on January 28th and 30th at 5 p.m. and February 1st and 2nd at 11 a.m. and will also be available for archived viewing on the city's website. If you'll please stand, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The agenda is approved as submitted. That brings us to item 1, which is public comments. I have one speaker card. I want you to know.
Mayor?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you. I don't know what I would do without you.
Councilmember Chow? Present. Councilmember Lowe? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Lyons? Here. Mayor Tai?
Here. Okay, now it's time for public comments. The public comment period is for items listed on this special meeting agenda only. Please complete a speaker's card and give it to the city clerk. There's a 5-minute maximum time limit when addressing the city council. I have one card, at least I did when I sat down. And it is for Cashel.
Good afternoon, City Council. Good afternoon, City Attorney, City Manager, the audience, other city staff. My name's actually pronounced Kushal, but it's okay. You got a free pass. I would like to see that when we hear from each of these 9 candidates, that we find a candidate that would help represent the interests of the Diamond Bar, and someone who's had experience working with youth, including people between the ages of 0 to 18 years old, and in my demographic particularly, 18 to 25 years old. We are facing a lot of changes, and I feel like we need a city council member who can understand the dynamic of this area, Diamond Bar and the neighboring regions. We're blessed to be strategically placed at the intersection of LA County, Orange County, and San Bernardino County. But my concern is that there are resources that could be better utilized for citizens, because a lot of citizens like me, I did my master's degree and I graduated, and I feel like, unfortunately, I'm able to find work, but other people may not know where to start. And I just want the candidate to understand that we have changed, that we like some things to be addressed that face us, unemployment, like whether we want to volunteer, then also civic duty. And I feel the city could be more proactive. I do appreciate the new initiative that has been introduced, in which once a month in the recreation department you can get to do pickleball, you could do tennis. That's a new initiative. I really appreciate that the city's been willing to adapt that strategy. But there's more the city can do, and because we have 2 people from government, Ling Chang and Jimmy Chen, if I said it correctly, Philip Chen, sorry. Because our representatives in the state, Ling Chang and Philip Chen, are from Diamond Bar, we have increased leverage. And with this election coming up in March 2020 and the November 2020 election, of course, so much is going to be at stake. We all know that the census is being sent out. I myself have asked to volunteer with the Census Bureau. And the change is that we need to find a way to come together. I do know the council has been traditionally pro-Republican, but with new people coming into the forefront, we're going to see a mixture of left-wing ideology and right-wing ideology, and ideas can be implemented. Of course, our civic duty is to help the citizen Diamond Bar, to help public safety resources, and to make sure that everybody does a good job. One thing I'd like to propose that a new council member could do is to increase civic classes for citizens of Diamond Bar, because in my college and my grad school, we never said Pledge of Allegiance, not at least in classes. At the Senate meetings I used to go to, in both my undergrad and grad school, we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance. But with the way politics is going, a lot of people have this warped vision of what is expected in life. I mean, the typical stereotype is that us millennials, we want to get to the top right away. And yet we have to start from the bottom. It's difficult to understand that humility unless you put yourself in the shoes of a millennial. And the challenge that is coming to us is whether we can sustain a population that's healthy, that can grow, that can take part in civic duty, that can take part in city functions. Because I'm worried that if current trends regarding housing prices and demographic shifts occurs, we are going to be seeing an increase of seniors, but there'll be less resources for the youth. And my fear is that a lot of youth between the ages of 18 and 25, during or upon completion of their university degrees, will leave Diamond Bar for good. And that's something I don't want, because Diamond Bar has a very good potential. It offers excellent school districts in both Pomona District and Walnut Valley District. And I personally feel that we need to engage, because Diamond Bar is a symbol of hope in the dreary landscape that defines LA County. I myself oppose Eric Garcetti, and I feel that his agenda is hypocritical and he does not reflect the views of LA County residents. And I feel that also there needs to be a sense of bipartisanship between pro-Republican and pro-Democratic legislators in all forms of government, because we need to work on solutions. I'm not sure what's going on with the 60 freeway, because it's still crowded and still dangerous. I've taken it to work, my dad's taken it to work, and we don't know what to do because we are not sure what's going on. And I do want this council member who gets elected to address the issues that I and other constituents are concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushal, and thank you for giving me a pass on the pronunciation. If you ask Councilman Chow, he'll tell you regularly I can't get his last name right. So thank you for your thoughts. That's the only speaker card I have. Is there anybody else that would like to address the City Council on what we're considering here at this special meeting today? Now would be the time to come forward. Please come forward. If you'll identify yourself for the record.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mario Salas. I'm a longtime resident of Diamond Bar. I would like to thank the council, candidates, and members of the public who are participating in this meeting. I will keep my comments brief. As a member of the community, I'm going to ask 3 questions. My hope is that either the candidates answer the questions directly, or if necessary, the city council members ask the questions. 1, for those who indicated they served on a commission, what personal contribution did you provide to further the goals of the commission? 2nd, it appears that nearly all of the candidates identified traffic as a critical issue Diamond Bar faces daily. Based on your experiences, education, and background, what changes or strategies can be implemented or utilized to address this problem? And finally, in 2019, there were several high-profile and violent robberies that occurred in Diamond Bar, and specifically one in broad daylight. When addressing these issues, what do you think the City Council's level of responsibility is? And based on your experience, education, and background, what strategies do you think Diamond Bar would, should, or could implement to prevent these sort of problems in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. Anybody else that would like to address the City Council? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. And that brings us to item 2, council consideration. Mr. Fox.
Mayor, Kai, members of the City Council, the purpose of this study session, or excuse me, this special City Council meeting today is to interview candidates for a vacant City Council seat as a result of the resignation of Carol Herrera. You have the interview schedule in front of you. There is a slight revision. We were able to move some things around. We did have one cancellation, so you do have some time in there. We were recommending that you proceed from top to bottom on that, and if there is a candidate that may not be here and you get ahead of yourself, you may want to allow that candidate, if they show up a little bit later, to still be interviewed. And with that, I think once the interviews are done, you have the ability to deliberate amongst yourselves and make a decision to appoint a council member today, or you could defer that to your meeting on February 4th at your discretion. And be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Question.
Yes, Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you, Mayor. So, this is an open meeting that we're at today. So if the applicant who goes first, after they complete their questions, do they have to exit the room or may they stay?
No, all the candidates and the members of the public are here may remain in the room and through the entire meeting, including any determination of the council to make an appointment. So the candidates do not necessarily need to leave unless they choose to on their own.
And likewise, they don't have to remain outside while another candidate is being asked any questions. Is that how it works?
That is correct. They can all be in the room. It is a public meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we are going to interview applicants. My request was that everybody have a question that they were interested in asking from those questions that were provided, or perhaps you came up with a question on your own, but all I would ask is that we ask the same question of all the candidates. So even if you have two, I mean, I know that we're scheduled to go in 15-minute increments. I don't think that's a hard and fast rule. If somebody's mid-sentence at 15 minutes, they'll keep going. I have no intention of cutting anybody off. But I do think it's fair to ask the same question of each candidate. So nobody can say at some point that this candidate got softball questions and I was grilled. So I've been through that before. So I would think that's going to be a good strategy to take. So any questions on procedure or any suggestions? Okay. So it's 3:12. Our first candidate is up at 3:25. Because it's posted, do we need to wait? Or can we call?
If they're here, you can proceed.
Okay.
I believe the first couple of candidates are in the room.
I see 3. So, okay, Stan Liu, if you please come forward, identify yourself.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Comfortable standing.
Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. It's an honor to be here interviewing for the City Council position. My name is Stan Liu, and I am a father of 2 girls, Caitlin and Megan. Caitlin is 12 years old, and Megan is 9 years old. And along with my wife, I live in a owner-occupied home in this beautiful city of Diamond Bar. I am currently serving as a chairperson on the Walnut Valley Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, where we oversee the voter-approved $152 million bond to improve our schools, and we actively monitor the projects and expenditures. And I am also a chairperson for the South Point School Site Council, and I'm a forum chair for the Entrepreneurs Organization in the Inland Empire, and I'm also a vice chair for the Youth Science Center that serves kids on STEM education from all walks of socioeconomic status. And I am a co-founder of a company and operating as COO and CFO for ZTAC. ZTAC, to go as ZTAC is to create more positive habits, more health and wellness habits for today's youth and also our seniors. Prior to this, I serve as a chairperson for the Evergreen Elementary City Site School Site Council. I also served for 3 years in the LA chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization as a forum chair on the board of directors. And throughout my community work, I am actively working with schools where I volunteer as an MC and DJ for the fundraiser events. Prior to this, I earned my MBA degree with emphasis on finance from Cal State University, California, and an ambassador's degree in computer information systems from Azusa Pacific University. I also started my a business, eco-friendly baby furniture business, that grew from 0 to $12 million in annual revenue in 15 years. And through those 15 years, we planted over 100,000 trees in urban area throughout the United States with a partnership with American Forests. I am passionate about serving our community, and thank you for the opportunity. As a councilman, I will serve with commitment, passion, active involvement, and expertise. My schedule is very flexible. I can work anytime. Since it's as a business owner, I can arrange my schedule. As with the opportunity to serve at the city council, I can serve in our regional and state communities. Any schedule, I can do it effective immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for coming today. Can you describe a situation where you were serving on a board or a panel or organization where there were divergent opinions on an issue and whether or not you were able to come to consensus and how you did so?
In terms of divergent on a board, one example would be the U.S. Science Center. The U.S. Science Center has been around since in 1960s, and throughout when it originated, it was a lot more. It was hand-on education for the kids in schools, and where the schools were lagging in terms of dissecting frogs and snakes and such. But as time progressed, that kids are looking for more science, and then the engagement level is very, very, very different. So no longer can we dissecting frogs is still good, and looking at rocks is still good. However, their engagement is more in engineering, which is like 3D printing and coding and that. So with we have a struggle of teachers that been teaching for 20 or 30 years that are very adamant about dissecting frogs and looking at rocks. And then we have a new community that looking, hey, coding is the future and 3D printing is the future. Where do we create that balance? Right, so the balance is that we have to offer classes that engage our kids. The way to education, it's all about engaging. The more we can find ways to engage them, to give them valuable lessons and skills to the future, that ultimately everybody wins. So we were able to create a agenda that on an annual basis that we look at the curriculums and migrate to where we look at our data. So example, look at our data where the classes have been given traditionally, and then where we look at outside of other organizations, the for-profit organization. U.S. Science Center is non-for-profit. So how do we compete with them to get more kids engaged of all socioeconomic status? So through that's where we're able to get everyone to engage and to come to a consensus to continue progress.
Councilman Cho. Chow. See, Kushal? Chow. I was thinking of Gary Chow, and you told me he spells it wrong. I thought he pronounced it wrong. Please go ahead.
It's only been a year. It's okay. I got three more years to get it right. Thank you, Mr. Liu, for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time and the opportunity to come speak to us. I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking to be here in front of the public and talk about your life and your aspirations and all that. So I do appreciate your background with the schools and all that. I do have one question. I think one of the core functions as a council person is to make decisions on behalf of the city. And from time to time, our decisions are not easy, and they even could be controversial. So as a potential council person, how do you form your opinions that has the potential to affect the whole city? Where do you draw your information from, and how do you form your opinions?
Yeah, I live my life as a growth mindset. When I make decisions, through business and through the different boards that I serve, I look at myself as a servant leader. Any type of decision we look at the greater good of that entire community or organization. With a city like Diamond Bar, I am right in the middle of our demographic. And what the kids are growing up in our where children growing up on a community, from talking to my neighbors in the older gentlemen in our community and our neighbors. You know, our neighbors came to this beautiful city of Diamond Bar 30 years ago. The same reason why we moved here. It's for our kids, and they love it. They are still living here. I can tell you a little story that our neighbor Susie, she said that she'd been living she was the second home buyer for the house in the tract by Ronald Reagan Park. And she has seen kids, when she first moved here, there's a ton of kids on the street playing, and she had not seen that in about 5 years. When we moved in, Caitlin and Megan were the youngest kids, and were playing out on the street and playing ball, and she said that is a really welcoming thing, and as we see the generations turn, and yet she loves to be in our community, and I want that for our city of Diamond Bar and our community to continue to thrive that way. So in 30 years from now, I want to be able to see the same thing.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Liu. Thank you again for being here and sharing your thoughts with us. We really appreciate it. My question has to do with the critical issues facing the city of Diamond Bar, and you identified 3 things in your application, what you believe were the critical issues.
Yes.
Balancing the city's evolving population, traffic, and thriving businesses. Based upon your, why do you say that you are the best candidates to address those issues? And then my follow-up question is, what do you see as obstacles to fulfillment of resolving those issues?
You know, I came to the U.S. when I was 13. Throughout, I come to meet people of all different backgrounds, and through business and through different organizations at school. I have come to learn from citizens of every background and be able to find ways to work it. So from talking to residents that are here, from volunteering in school, and parents and grandparents that live here for 30 years, they absolutely love love living in Diamond Bar, where our open space and our country style living. That the reason why we move here is the same. So, but we also notice there's a balance that older generation that bought their home 30 years ago that are maturing, and we have a shift in demographic in terms of population. So there's always a way. There's always a way to create a harmony, a balance in terms of culture. Done that at work and in terms of serving in boards. So be able to balance it. You can see that some residents that live here for 30 or 40 years that do not like the changes that are making here, such as different restaurants.
Well, let me just have you jump right to the solution here.
Well, okay. Can I jump to the solution?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's created. It's open communication. It's better understanding. I think what we're doing in the parks that bring out both the older and the younger kids that collectively play in the parks. It's amazing. What we do on the web, and such as the Diamond Bar Buzz, it's great in terms of opening up the communications. In terms of thriving businesses, that we can see generation change and tastes change. You know, the marketplaces will always be there. It's just having the right product to offer to customers. Right? We can see that a few years ago, the Kmart sit here a few years ago and was just there. Right? It's good. They're collecting rent, but there is no sales. There is no sales tax. Right? So between putting a Sprouts on there rather than just allowing Kmart to decay. When we first moved to the U.S., Kmart was the place to go. You know, but not so much now because consumer tastes change. Same thing with the restaurants we have here. A very good example would be Tasty Box and Basil Leaves and Company here. I've been to that exact same location, three particular owners for Basil and Company. And what they're doing now, it's amazing, bringing something slightly different The last time, the one that prior to that offered Thai food as well. I went there with Megan, and we sat there, and we enjoyed it, but that's not what everybody else is looking at. So now they changed the shift a little bit, and people are coming, within our community and outside our community. A ton of traffic flows through our Diamond Bar, right? So we have the right stores and the right retail spaces. People will stop, So it goes that way to increase the sales in terms of bringing more sales, and the sales tax is having places that people want to go, consumers want to consume.
And your obstacle, and the third one that you identified was the traffic. So you identify traffic as a problem. What makes you the best candidate to address that particular problem? And then the follow-up is, what do you see are the obstacles to the solutions that you've proposed?
From my experience as a business owner, as being on the board, I am a problem solver, and that I don't have all the information how to available, read it to solve the traffic. So what example I can give you is I was involved in the drop-off committee at Evergreen last year. So the principal asked me, Mr. Iyer asked me to be on that committee. We look at different sites and how the drop-off would affect the traffic to the local residences. That's one of the big gripes that's having in like Evergreen Elementary would be one example of the difference between the residents that have been there for a long time and also that we have the young kids coming in, because there are a couple of streets there that residents have been living there 20 or 30 years, and every single morning and after school traffic is crazy, right? So and then to the point it's unsafe. So we look for a solution to create a drop-off that creates safety for the kids, where they're not crossing the street, dropping off and crossing the street, or the parents are late that just runs around and drop off the kid, and these kids are between 5 and 8 years old and 9 years old running across the street. So that we work with Caltran in the city and the superintendent, assistant superintendent, look for the solutions, and the residences look for the best way to create drop-off. So the drop-off now, it moved to originally we looked at places that are in front of the school, but now we see the school above the upper playing field above the school, and create that as a drop-off. That will alleviate a lot of traffic, and then create a safe location. So
I wish you were on the job when my kids were going to Evergreen. But just briefly, what do you think are some of the obstacles to solving our balance problem, our traffic problems? And I'm talking traffic problems beyond just Evergreen. Because it's no secret that we have a traffic problem as well as the business.
The traffic problems, I can see that there is a huge traffic problem on Diamond Bar Boulevard and also on Golden Springs, right? So based on my knowledge, what I know, it's a way it's during a rush traffic hour and also through the schools. So between those times, if we're able to sync up the lights that can get lights to pass on, I think that's a good start, because I sat on the traffic and lights for a long time. So we get people coming in and on Diamond Bar Boulevard, then it turns on Grand. So if that would be a great start. As with more information, I'm sure we will collectively come up with a great solution for it.
Thank you.
So the council meets the first and third Tuesday of every month. We have business to consider. Not only required that you're at those meetings, that whoever's chosen is at those meetings, but it's required that you participate and regularly attend other functions, whether that's contract cities or League of Cities or COG meetings or whatever it might be. Do you have any current or future obligations that might conflict with the duties required of a city council member?
No obligations. I, as a council man, I will put serving the city first. I will clear out my schedule and plan my schedule around city events. and that includes our regular meetings and also serving as a delegate to the regional and the state committees and boards.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to share with us before you go?
I feel it would be a great honor and privilege to serve our city and the citizens of our city. Like I said, I serve with passion. I serve with active involvement, commitment, and also the expertise I have both in formal education and also business and being on the board on more of a global basis that hopefully that will help our city. You know, I want to be like Susie. 20, 30 years from now, I want to see, hey, I'm still living here, and then perhaps my kids will be running around and be able to see great kids in the beautiful city of Diamond Bar.
Very good. Thanks for your time. Thanks for taking the effort to be here. We really appreciate your interest.
Thank you.
Okay, at 3:32, we'll move on. Bill Rawlings.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Please,
So-
introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I am Bill Rawlings. I am a lifelong resident, so coming up on 45 years in Diamond Bar, second generation, living here in the city. You know, I have a great career. I could live anywhere. I could work anywhere as a technology professional, but I choose Diamond Bar. It's a place I grew up. I know the great qualities of the city. My family moved here, original homeowners back in the late 1960s, so didn't quite beat Carol Herrera, but came pretty close. And so I've been able to see Diamond Bar as it's grown up as well. You know, going from the days of the rodeo up into the cityhood campaign and up till now, where really it is a very thriving community. You know, it's I think a community that I understand well, but also I think it is a very diverse community now that I think is really maybe sometimes underrecognized and underappreciated. But the city that we've become, I think, is fantastic, and so I'm looking forward to being able to serve and continue to give back to my city and my community, and hopefully being able to create an opportunity for other families and their children to have the same experience I did growing up.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Chow.
So I think we're asked to ask the same question.
Yes, please.
Okay. So again, thank you, Bill, for being here, and I appreciate all the candidates for taking time out and come for the potential to serve our community. So I'll ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Liu earlier. So as a council person, I think one of the core functions is to make decisions, some of them difficult, some of them controversial. As a potential council member, how do you draw your decisions? How do you make that decision?
Really, I have to start with, you know, what's the impact, right? If we're making a decision about something, there's clearly a choice point we've got to evaluate. And when you have a choice point like that, it can be really a major issue, like an inflection point, or it could be something a little more straightforward. And I think really the first thing you do is you take a look at what's the impact on the community, what's the impact on the city, you know, what's the urgency of it. If it's an issue that's fairly complex, we might want to take a little more time and be thoughtful about it. If it's a little more straightforward and we're making a decision, then I would take a look at really what's in the best interest of the residents, the constituents of the city, what's in the best interest of the city itself, is it fiscally prudent, and then also do no harm where we can. There are going to be times where residents and constituents are going to be a little upset about some of the decisions, and you can't please everyone all the time, but you do your best, and you take that into consideration as well. But you listen. I mean, that's I think one of the most important things, especially when it comes down to decisions that both the commissions and the city council makes, is the open records and the open meeting acts are designed to allow the legislative bodies to listen to the constituents, and I think that's a key point in any decision making as well.
Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Hi, Bill. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bill, in your application, in your statement, you highlighted 3 things that you thought were critical issues. You identified fiscal constraints, economic development, and general plan implementation. What about your history or your qualifications make you the best candidate to deal with these 3 issues that you've identified? And what do you see are some of the obstacles to the fulfillment of these of your solutions?
So I currently also serve on the Board of Governors for California Community Colleges, so it's a statewide regulatory and policymaking board. And we oversee, I think in this upcoming budget, close to $15 billion in tax revenue. And so, you know, my experience in providing prudent fiscal oversight and being able to really analyze large, complex budgets, I think will help in the city. City budgets may not be particularly large in some cases, but they certainly can be complex with different revenue sources, and I think my experience at the state level is helpful for me there. Really with, you know, some of the challenges with any municipal revenue is that there are always outside pressures on it. You know, especially being a contract city, there's a lot of services that we aren't in direct control of, and there's rate-driven increases in costs. And all of that puts pressure both on the general fund and where the general fund maybe has kind of commitments in other areas, it tends to lead to dipping into reserves, and we have to be very careful about when and how and why we do that. So I think my experience at the state level helps me there. Economic development, I think there again, my role both in education and also at the state level is important. One of the particular areas of interest and expertise I bring is that I serve on a joint committee with the State Board of Education for K-12, and our particular work is around workforce development. And so that really is at the intersection of education, business, local government, and community and students. And so understanding that you know, the challenges businesses face are not straightforward, they're not simple. Sometimes it's cost of rent, sometimes it's relationships with property owners, developers, but sometimes it's challenges with workforce. And understanding that the business environment is very complex, having experience listening to the business community and encouraging them to kind of speak up, share their concerns, but also to help find solutions for our business community, I think is a talent that I have that will be helpful here. And then with general plan implementation, I think both my experience as a policymaker, but then also my service on the Planning Commission, being familiar with the documents, being familiar with the process, knowing the city as well as I do, having grown up here, I think gives me a good insight into some of the issues where we might have feedback and concern around zoning or other ordinances and changes that need to be made following the adoption of the general plan.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Again, thank you for coming today in the middle of the afternoon.
Thanks.
So, can you describe a situation where you were serving on, you know, one of these boards, and there were multiple opinions about what should be done, whether or not you're able to reach consensus, and how you did so?
Yeah. There are a lot of examples of that, and some more recent that are still getting some public scrutiny. But I think the one I would use here is the nonprofit that I helped found, the Watchman Arts Association, serves the greater Southern California area, particularly focused on underprivileged and underserved youth, particularly around music education. I know we have a number of organizations within the city that do similar work. And there was a challenge we had where we had some, I would say, maybe less experienced board members that didn't always have a clear understanding of their fiduciary duty. But we were serving a really important need in the communities around Southern California. And there were some folks who wanted to expand the program offerings that we had. And I was of the opinion that we need to kind of take a slow-go approach to it. And make sure that the revenues were there to support it in a sustainable way. And so the board was really evenly split, which was a particular challenge for us. And so what we did was, first we talked through what our values were as an organization and made sure that we recommitted to that, what our purpose was and how it was going to be best met in each scenario. But then also, you know, given the tension that was there, we decided that we would create benchmarks, and that if we could meet those benchmarks, that would raise the comfort level of folks like myself that were more fiscally conservative, that we could move forward and take the next step in deciding to expand the programs. Maybe we expand them in a more limited way versus, you know, going and doing a broad, expensive approach. In the end, we ended up kind of taking a segmented approach and a kind of check-in kind of solution to it. What ended up happening was that the large expansion was not what we went with. We did go with something that was a little more moderated, but we did expand the program to different areas and offered programs to students that weren't previously served. So it was very helpful. Yeah.
So, Mr. Rawlings, you heard me say that we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month if there's business to be conducted. Are there any current or future obligations that might conflict with your duties as a councilman?
No, not at all, at least none that I'm aware of, except for one. My nephew is getting married in October out in Minnesota in the first part of the month. I don't believe it will interfere, the travel plans will interfere with the meetings at that time, but that would be the only thing on the horizon.
But if it does interfere, you will go to the wedding, right?
That would be my plan, yes.
Very good.
I will be in
that
trouble
was
with
a
my
real-
sister if I didn't.
We just got a real insight there, so about you choosing family.
Yeah.
The responsibilities also require being involved regionally, whether that, again, is Contract Cities, League of Cities, COG. We do advocacy in Sacramento and in Washington, and nothing that you can think of would interfere with that if you had the opportunity to go and advocate on behalf of Diamond Bar in Washington with the elected officials. We're trying to get money for the 5760 Big Fix.
Exactly.
Is there anything that would keep you from,
Nothing
other than
that-
your
that-
nephew's wedding?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Nothing that would prevent me from doing those things. And actually, I would like to expand on that a little bit. That's actually an area where I have some expertise. I have, I think, a fairly good relationship with a lot of the local city leaders in the region. I'm also familiar and have a good relationship with both sides of the aisle in Sacramento, I think. So I think my connections, my experience there have been helpful. But I also have quite a bit of experience lobbying on education issues that would translate directly over into advocating for the city.
Very good. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
No, I think that covers most of it, except maybe for one that you touched on, which is the 5760 interchange issue. One of the higher profile issues that I noted in my critical issues comments here on my paperwork was the traffic. And we have a particular challenge with traffic, partly just the geography and the availability of roadway. We have some great traffic engineers working with the city and working for the city, and I trust that they've been doing a diligent job trying to improve the traffic as best we can. We're not, I don't think, really going to crack the traffic problem until the interchange issues get resolved. That's going to take both our local community, it's going to take a regional effort, it's going to take a statewide effort and a federal effort to really get that piece solved. And until we get that taken care of, it's going to be very difficult to really solve a lot of the street traffic issues because we have so much cross and pass-through traffic from other communities. And so doing that, but also working with Foothill Transit to expand transit offerings that may be a solution for some folks, I think is really how we're going to crack the nut on traffic here in town.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate your.
Thank you so much.
Okay, at 3:45, Tommy Arona. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Tommy Arona. I've lived here for coming up on 18 years, so not quite 45, but but I'm getting there. My siblings grew up here as well. We most of us, all of us, played sports here. I did the AYSO soccer as a little kid. Got to go to the Spring Select, and then represent, go to a Galaxy game because our team did pretty well, so that was fun. Went to Diamond Ranch High School, wrestled there all 4 years. So I couldn't do soccer anymore because it's the same season, but became captain of the team as a junior, president of the club as well that same year. Went to do that again my senior year. Represented the school at the league finals and took the league champion for Diamond Ranch High School, and that was a big accomplishment for me as a high schooler, and to have my name up on the wall there in the wrestling room. I still go to this day, help out, reach out to the coach, or they'll contact me if I can come help out. I've had old wrestlers that will ask me for advice. When I finally went to officially coach, I applied a year after, and I got hired as an assistant wrestling coach for Diamond Ranch High School. That was the 2011-2012 season, and that was very rewarding for me to give back to the program that did a lot for me and helped the students and the athletes. I'm currently on the Parks and Recreation Commission. I've became chairman last year, so that's been a major honor of mine to serve on this commission. We meet right here in this room, and just being involved in the city, getting to meet people, getting to hear their input. Been stopped a couple times about, hey, this park meeting you have coming up, can you tell them to put the trail on, and residents coming to me, and I like that. I'm very much a people person. I've always been a people person. Anyone who knows me can say that. I engage with the public. I love talking to people, interacting with people, and that's just in my nature who I am, and it's a huge part of me. And currently I work as a area manager for Walmart in the logistics, so I run the shipping department. Again, I have 36 associates that are just directly under me. Altogether, there's almost 1,000 associates there. And I take pride in the fact that these associates come to me for questions, for help, for advice when they're going through personal issues, even if it's not at work. They come to me, and I've built a rapport with them and been able to get them to work, especially physical work a lot of the times, and work hard and push numbers, but at the same time have fun, be safe, and hopefully not just do it because I'm their boss, but because we mutual respect between each other, and that's what I try to do in any position or just in life. That's who I am. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. I went down the street in Cal Poly Pomona. I love politics. I've studied it in high school. I already knew I wanted to major in political science. Went on to college. I have an associate's degree in it as well. I've been involved in campaigns in the past, and obviously on the city board here, commission, and it's just something that interests me. I will always have a passion in, and will just dive right in. So this opportunity is very welcoming to me. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you, Mayor. My question has to do with the 3 priorities that you've identified in your application. And in your application, you identified the 3 critical issues as safety, traffic, and preserving our open spaces. Can you describe why you are best qualified based upon your qualifications to handle these issues? And secondly, what do you see are some of the obstacles to solving these issues?
Sure, yeah. For safety, actually at my work in the warehouse, safety is top priority. Every single day we meet with the assistant general manager and all the operation managers, and we speak on safety as a #1 priority, above our goals for the day, above anything else for the company. And specifically in a warehouse, it's a dangerous environment. There's powerlifting equipment and boxes freight that can fall down and injure people, and safety is something that is on my mind every single day at work. So I've built the ability to become one of the safety leaders. Every morning I lead safety meetings at work, talk about safety, give demonstrations, and relay that information back up to the higher ups, and make sure that each individual associate understands why this is a safe practice or why this is unsafe. My family members, many of them are in law enforcement, and countless friends that I have. And while it's not my direct experience, but I've been through the years heard many stories, examples, and how to be safe. Things like where you whether it's safe as in the crime, someone can do you harm, or it's simply just safety driving. All that law enforcement has a ton of knowledge, and my father was law enforcement. He's bestowed a lot of that on me, as well as my cousins that are older than me, and like I said, friends that give me tips here and there. So I would just take that, my value of safety, and apply that to this city. I love that Diamond Bar is a safe city, and number one thing I would want to do is keep it that way. For the traffic situation, I think the most thing I share is the frustration with everybody else that lives in Diamond Bar sometimes. When you're on the Diamond Bar Boulevard, it can get pretty backed up. It's not that if I have personal experience that's just going to blow everybody else out of the water when it comes to traffic, because I'd be lying if I said I did, but it would definitely be something I would urge staff, traffic engineers, to look at. What are our options? I think anything in decision making goes with not that, hey, I have the most knowledge, but who can I talk to? Who can I ask questions to? And listening, and then using your best judgment with peers, with people you respect, to come to a good decision as regards to traffic or anything, really. And excuse me, preserving our open spaces. That one I've noticed when I've attended many council meetings. I'm sitting there, I hear many residents, that seems to be one of their top priorities. And I think as a council member, whatever the residents' top priority is should be one of my top priorities, just by the way it should go. So, and I love nature. I have a profound respect for it, and being out in the mountains recently with a buddy, and I really appreciate it. Being on the Parks and Recreation Commission has given me a new insight to people's importance of trails and parks and having that open space. I know the council fought hard to preserve the Tres Hermanos area, and I applaud you for that, and that's something that I would have, if I was on the council, would fight with you on that as well. To not just develop all open spaces, it'd be a focus of mine. And I think the main obstacle would be funds. I would imagine when I was on the commission trying to seek funds for the Sycamore Canyon Trail project, I would urge the assistant city manager and parks director, hey, let's get funds from FEMA, so the city doesn't have to hurt their own reserve. So as the previous candidate said, working at a state, federal, and local level to get that done, I think would be the most difficult thing, getting the funds.
I just wanted to clarify, did you say that you would fight with us for the Tres Hermanos or against us?
Fight is like holding hands fighting.
Okay, on the same side.
On the same side, yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Not fight against. I wouldn't dare. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all that legal training didn't go for nothing, did it? Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Lyons.
Tommy, thank you for coming in today. It's good to see you here in another role,
Yeah.
Can you describe a situation where you were on a board, serving on a board or a panel with a variety of people, and there were divergent opinions? One wanted black, one wanted white, one wanted purple, yellow, whatever. And whether or not you're able to come to a consensus and how you did that?
Sure, yeah. Just recently on the Parks Commission, the agenda item came up of whether we should change our schedule meetings or not. And I was in favor of moving it from every month to every other month. I've never missed a meeting, by the way, so it wasn't for my personal, but I know that some members found it hard to show up every month, as well as the attendance was low or sometimes zero in the audience, and staff had to build every month the resources, set up this room pretty much like it is now, and the time, working long hours for a meeting that would maybe last 25 minutes, and that's with us doing the Pledge of Allegiance and moving through all the motions. So I thought it'd be better to move every other month, have more efficient, productive meetings. But we had a commissioner who didn't feel that way, and I think one who was on the fence from our deliberating. So we discussed. I gave my opinion. I know one commissioner agreed with me. The one who wasn't sure was pretty quiet, and the other commissioner was against it. We didn't get that commissioner to change their mind, but we did get the other three members. One was absent to say, yeah, I see the value in moving it every other month. And so we did a roll call vote on it, and it passed 3-1. I know it went to the city council, and you guys approved it as well. That was something just to share the way the process of it is to explain, I feel, why. As I said earlier, as in my management role, I always give why. I don't like, hey, we're doing this, and then there's no explanation. So even if it's a colleague or someone higher or below, to lead anyway, you got to lead, laterally or up and down as well. So I was just explaining here's the reasons why I feel this is a better option, and we got, majority on that.
Councilman Chow.
Thank you. So thanks for being here. I enjoyed our time on the Park and Rec Commission
Yes.
together. So glad to see you here and trying to take the next steps. I really appreciate being here. So I'm going to ask the same question, but slightly differently, because third person, so I want to change things up a little bit. So when there's a difficult question or a potentially controversial question that comes up that require your vote, where do you go to get your information? Are you of the mindset that since you're elected by the people, you can decide for them, or are you of the mindset that it's better for you to go talk to some people, get the information before you make a decision? What do you think your role is as a council member?
Right. So I think there's two parts to that. I think absolutely, or I should still go to the public, just because you're voted in or appointed in, even especially as appointed member, since I wouldn't be elected in this sense, to reach out to the public. What are your thoughts, whether it be social media or interacting in public? I know I see many of you are just residents out in Coffee Bean or wherever I'm at. So talking to the public, getting their insights, their thoughts on that would definitely be something I would do when I take my decision making. My personal experiences obviously are brought into a decision, as well as my faith that I hold, my family, things, my upbringing. I don't think anyone can totally remove their personal experiences from a decision. But first and foremost, just thinking about who am I representing, which is the residents of Diamond Bar, and how is this decision, is it in their best interest? And if I feel it is, and I can, then that's the decision I would go with. But definitely reach out to hear their input.
So we meet on the first and third Tuesdays across the street at AQMD. Is there any current or future obligations that you have that might conflict with your duties or your ability to serve as a council member?
No, not at all. Mr. Mayor, I'm actually off Monday through Thursday, so I'm wide open. I just sit around and don't. No, I'm kidding. But I am open off Monday through Thursday. I work the weekends, so I'm wide open. I know the city does most of its business during the week. I would be totally open for that, as I am. I have experience as well going to Washington, D.C. and lobbying as well. I know you mentioned that you go to Sacramento. That's something I would love to do, and yeah, I would think it would be not just my duty, but I'd have fun doing it as well. And my availability, like I said, is wide open. If there are something planned ahead on the weekend when I am working, I'm able to put a request in for that specific day off, like I just did previously for the Winter Snow Fest. I was working that day, but I was able to get that time to be there. So as long as it's scheduled ahead, and if it's something that I need to be there, I can do it on the weekend as well. But for the week, I'm currently wide open Monday through Thursday.
Excellent. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
I would just want to thank you for the opportunity. I love Diamond Bar. I love serving people. I've been in some kind of public or leadership role most of my life. It's something I'm passionate about, and I just, once again, thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you for making the time to be here. We appreciate it. Okay, at 4 o'clock, Dr. Doshi. If you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone sitting across me. Good afternoon, the councilmen, women, and the city officers. My pleasure to be here. I'm Sanjay Doshi. I've been here in Diamond Bar now as a resident since 1994. I'm married to Darshna, my wife of 25 years, and we have two wonderful kids. One is 22, my son, Jay, who's graduating from USC Computer Science this spring. My daughter, Juhi, she's graduating from Diamond Bar High School this spring, 2020. So we've been here. Both kids have gone through the Walnut Valley Unified School District system. I myself have been a practicing dentist in Diamond Bar since 1992, and along the way of last 27 years and counting, I must say that I've enjoyed every day, every quarter, every year, but I've also gained a lot of experience of what the city of Diamond Bar has been through and is evolving to be a wonderful city, of course, and I'm very proud to be a citizen of the city. So here I am taking this next step as an opportunity to serve the city and to represent the residents. I'm looking forward to your questions and whatever best input I can give you today. I would be more than happy.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lyons.
Thank you for coming today. Can you describe a situation where you were serving on a board or a panel and there was a different divergent opinions, that one thought it should be this way and one thought that way and somebody else thought this way, and, you know, just a kind of a conflict situation, and whether or not it was resolved and how it was resolved?
Okay. In the past few years, wherever I've served, whether it was a Rotary Club, whether it was any other service organizations, usually the board of directors tend to have some sort of a majority count that plays to be the final conclusive decision. So typically how I bring my opinion to my mind is I look at the research, I look at the history, the data that's available to us, the facts, the figures, the trend of the market, the trend of the consumer psychology, also the culture of the region you're living within. So as I see, if there was an opposing count, we would have to have some sort of an alliance, some sort of a coalition built first, so that we could understand, exchange, compare, and contrast the divisive opinions, the divisive points versus the points that unite us. And at some point, I would have to deal with the majority. So sometimes in life, you have to realize that even though in the heart of your hearts, you wanted certain things to pan out a certain way, and it didn't, well, that's just part of the game of life. And we need to respect that diplomacy and also that democracy.
Councilman Chow.
Hi, Dr. Doshi. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Andrew.
It's actually nice to see a dentist.
Oh, trust me, this is quite a role for me. I'm looking forward
And to be honest, you're the first dentist I've seen sometime.
I would just say this, up until right now, in the last several
It's a joke.
terms.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a dentist joke. So I'll ask you the same questions. So again, one of the core functions as a council member is to make tough and difficult decisions. So where do you find your information, and what drives your decision-making process?
Well, it's based on 3 different platforms. If the particular controversy is depending on something that has to do with history, it has to do with culture, or it has to do with facts and figures, I look at wherever I need to draw that analysis from, and then there will be 2 different ways to go about it. 1, conduct a survey, hold a survey. 2, hold a focus group. Have an understanding that what the majority of the voice that you are calling a focus group, what they're trying to achieve. And 3, represent them as honestly and as transparently as possible.
Councilman Lowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Dr. Doshi. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Councilman.
In your application, you identified 3 critical issues facing the city of Diamond Bar. You identified the liabilities that are due within the next 15 years, and you identified that as $21.5 million. The next one is the innovative growth needed, and the third one is the general fund's reserves decreasing by $856,000. What in your history would, in your professional background or qualifications, make you the best candidate to deal with these 3 critical issues, and what do you see as possible obstacles to solving these issues?
I'll start with the first. Majority of the revenue that city generates right now is through the property taxes. As a resident, as a homeowner, and as a business owner, I found several times in the last 20 years that I felt that the city was going at a slow pace to develop either the businesses or to develop the homes that needed extra development. I'll make a very quick start point. When I had my location in the middle of Diamond Bar Boulevard, South Diamond Bar Boulevard, it took us back then, it was a different city staff and everything, but back then it took us 3 months to build a empty shell to a dental office. In 3 months, we had an operational dental practice. This about 2012, the clock moves forward, I took smaller space, and it took me 9 months to go through all the required steps for the city to approve a dental practice in a small 1,000 square feet space to become an operational. So to me, this was a major obstacle, number one. Number two, in this today's age, we have internet providers, Verizon, Frontier, Spectrum, and so on. In our complex on the south side where I currently practice, there was no high-speed internet. We were like a black hole in the area that we could not get anything but the slowest possible 1 Mbps internet speed, which was up until just last January, about 12 months ago, that I was able to find Spectrum to go ahead and find whatever the Verizon handshake they had to do in order to go ahead and give us an internet speed. So for me, in a city like Diamond Bar, every building, every home, every square inch should have the high-speed internet capacity. So this, at that point, was a big obstacle for any business. Third point, as of right now, available office spaces in the city, whether it's industrial, whether it's retail, or whether it's practice, we have over 22,000 square feet lease space available. We have over 150,000 square feet leasable space in industrial area. If we want to grow the city, we need to grow the property tax. How are we going to do that is we're going to bring more businesses. When you bring businesses, the owners of those businesses want to stay close to the city, to their ownership, to their business, and they're going to find a place that they can buy and upgrade, or buy and develop, or buy a piece of land and develop. So we need to fill these spaces that are there, that are open, vacant, unoccupied, and are currently probably a liability for the landlord who owns that building at the moment. So what I'm thinking is the obstacles are the only revenue channel we have is the property tax and some other permit fees and what have you. But here's the opportunity. The opportunity is untapped with all these open spaces that they can be occupied and they can be leased out. So we need cities' momentum to get those landlords, those brokers, and those prospective business owners to come in and open up a business sooner than they could open in Brea, in Chino Hills, in West Covina. I want to see my friends prosper here in my backyard with me, not leave from here and go somewhere else. A very good friend of mine, chiropractor, I won't name his name, but ran a practice for 7 years, found that it was difficult, even though in spite he did all the brown bag seminars, all the lunch seminars, he went to all the facilities to promote himself, ended up wanting to not renew the lease, to go just 3 cities down in Placentia. So to me, I feel we have opportunity. We have a wonderful country. We have a wonderful neighborhood, but we're missing out on bringing more businesses that would essentially bring more revenue, that would essentially bring more property tax. This, to me, is an obstacle that I would think, which brings a shortfall in the numbers, the big numbers. As we mentioned, 21 million or 15 million, page 15 on Coffer report, as I had analyzed. And I just feel that that's really where the solution lies, and I think that's one aspect of it. There was a third point that I mentioned in the obstacle, which was to do with the innovative growth. So one of the ways the city can grow and attract corporate America, attract tech sector, attract jobs, is to either share resources or share platforms that will allow those people that just barely came out of their undergrad degrees and look for a potential internship. So in here, I make it very, very clear that in good economy and on not so good economy, resources should be either shared or collaborated. We need a better collaborative environment here. We need an environment where businesses can share their common problems or common successes. So to me, I think innovative is a shortened name, but the fact of the matter is we need to have a better mix where it's active, energetic, and definitely more collaborative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Dr. Doshi, you've heard that we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month if we have business before us. Are there any current or future obligations that you might have that would conflict with your duties or your ability to serve as a city council member?
I looked on the calendar and looked at the history of the city's calendars for the past 7-8 terms, and everything pretty much matches with my time availability. I live in Diamond Bar, work in Diamond Bar, so literally coming for Tuesday meetings is not an issue. As far as the meetings in the other contract cities, COG meetings, or what have you, again, everything is planned on calendar, nothing is spontaneous. If there is any disaster issues that I need to get together, I'm only a phone call away. I'm known by my patients when they need to get a hold of me that they call me and I respond within hours.
But they would know that if you're selected on the first and third Tuesdays, no appointments after noon, right?
That is absolutely correct.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I'd like to just make one appeal, is that I'm very proud of our success of Diamond Bar City and all the awards and recognition it has achieved. At the end of the day, what has been done in the last 20, 30 years since 1989, we would like to carry on. Times are changing, so obviously bringing myself into the position as one of the members, there is a perspective of a small business ownership, and that perspective will definitely have some first-hand experience and some first-hand energy that I'd like to synergize with you all, and I'd like to look forward to that position.
Very good. Thank you for being here today. Okay, so that brings us to a break, and we have a decision to make because it's scheduled for a 5-minute break. And if I understand correctly, candidate Kim Shea needs to be flexible on the 4:30 time frame. Have we heard otherwise from her? Okay, so that with a gap at 4:45 means unless she shows up somewhere in between, we don't have a candidate scheduled until 5 o'clock. Sandra Ibanez. Is Sandra here? Oh, great. Would you like to go now? It's up to you. Go right ahead. Please come up. Yeah. Then, sorry. Then we get a break. Yes. You do. Go. Time out. Sorry. I should have checked with the council.
He has to feed the meter.
Not yet. Plug them all in. I'm gonna plug in the one on the floor. Yeah, I was gonna plug them all in, Jerry.
Okay, Ms. Ibanez. If you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ty, council members, staff, and all the friends of Diamond Bar. My name is Sandra Ibanez, and I am a very happy resident of Diamond Bar. I've been living here with my family for about 26 years, and I love it so much that I brought my parents here to live. So they live in a couple houses down. I currently work for the Los Angeles County Office of Education, and I'm the governance manager. So I do have a lot of experience with meeting facilitation, providing training for board members, school board members, nonprofit councils, and members. I am an expert in the Brown Act, parliamentary procedures. I write policies and procedures like bylaws, help with procedures for standard operating procedures for many things for all the districts that we oversee. Right now, we oversee about 14 nonprofit and school boards delegates, and with the Head Start division, that's where I work in. It's for children 0 to 5, and we have about 9,000 families that we serve. The reason I'm here today, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to Ms. Carol Herrera for the years that she worked on the council and all her years of service. I really am excited about the opportunity. I want to help and support the council members and the mayor and the staff and the Friends of Diamond Bar. It's a wonderful city. You guys are doing a great job. I don't see any there's always room for improvement, but I just want to help. I want to support you with the projects and the plans, and I want to help the members of the community and be supportive.
Thank you. Councilman Chow.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here. Just want to repeat my question again, but ask slightly differently. So as a council member, we do make some difficult decisions, sometimes controversial. So can you walk us through kind of your decision-making process when it comes to a difficult decision?
Well, decisions are made together, shared decision-making. First, you need to collect all the information, ask the questions so that when you're making a decision, it's something that you can be very confident about and comfortable with. You have to know the consequences of your decision. So whenever I'm making a decision or I need to oversee a decision, I always make sure that I bring everybody involved, and I do as much research. It's just like buying a house. When you buy a house, you want to know if it's haunted, you want to know if the pipes are good, you want to know what you're getting into before you make that decision. And it takes a lot of information to do that. I know that being a council member is not an easy job. I know that you have the community that you need to, look after. There might be some times when you need to hear from the community and provide them with the opportunity to see both sides and to hear it and to be fair. And making a decision is not a decision that I would want, but what's best for the community.
Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Ibanez. Thank you for being here. You identified 3 items, 3 critical issues facing Diamond Bar. And what is the qualities that make you the best candidate to deal with these issues? And the issues that you identified were the need for downtown Diamond Bar, to have a Diamond Bar area similar to the ones to promote businesses within the city. The second one was community emergency response. And the third one was traffic congestion. What makes you the best candidate to solve these problems, and what do you see as some of the obstacles?
I have a lot of experience working with strategic plans, developing goals and objectives, working with stakeholders, looking for community partnerships, and bringing in donations, looking at sponsors to be involved. I know the city very well. I've been here for 26 years, and I speak with my neighbors on a regular basis. I have a good idea of what the neighbors are interested in, and I'm very outgoing. I know about how important it is to get input. I know the challenges because I usually read up on some of the challenges with what's going on. I've been on the planning. I went to the planning meeting when you had it at the top of the hill, and that was a really wonderful opportunity to learn about what the plans were, the challenges, and I was very interested in that.
Thank
With the
you.
traffic, there's not really a lot that we can do. I mean, it's looking at, I'm sure that looking at how we can change that, but just my expertise in planning, in collecting input, surveys, community, creating community evaluations and surveys, assessing data, that my background and my experience, I can be of a great help. And then with the emergency response, I do provide training in active shooter, making sure that skills are safe. I lead the Parent Safety Committee for the 14 agencies that we oversee, looking how we can always be prepared and take a proactive approach to making sure that our city is safe and our citizens know what to do if, in fact, there is an emergency.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lyons.
Thank you for coming in today. Although I find it a little scary if you're an expert in the Brown Act. No, seriously, thank you for coming in. So you described a lot of different things that you were involved in, but can you describe a situation where you were with a group of people on a panel or a board and there were divergent opinions about something and how you were able to, or whether or not people were able to come together, and if so, how did that happen?
We're working on the Policy Council and being the facilitator of the Policy Council. Decisions need to be made between the Policy Council, which is our parents trained to make decisions, and our Los Angeles County Office of Education. Sometimes there's some difficult decisions to be made, for example, if they're going to take away funding from an agency. So parents and staff alone, both will come and share their opinions. They might be very upset. You might have union members there. So what is very important is that you provide an opportunity for all of those stakeholders and all of those involved to speak, to communicate what their concerns are, and make sure that you have the information so that they can rest at ease and that the decisions that you are bringing forth are safe and for the well-being of everyone involved.
So we meet the first and third Tuesdays of every month if there's business to be done. Is there any current or future obligations that you know of that might conflict with your duties or your ability to serve as a city council member?
No, sir, not at this time.
And we all have responsibilities on different committees. Whether, again, that's Contract Cities, League of Cities, California JPIA. Is there anything that would interfere with your participation?
No.
If you are. Very good. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, except thank you for the opportunity. I would love to help you, be a support to you, be a support to the community. I think it would be just a wonderful opportunity, and I thank you for the privilege and I'd be honored to do that.
Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate you being here. Okay, that brings us to 4:25. We're scheduled for a 5-minute break. I don't think time is of the essence here. We're not scheduled. The next scheduled appointment is Dr. Shea, and we don't know at what time. Have we heard from her?
Not recently.
Okay, but
earlier this morning.
so I was going to move her to the end, and so we can take a 10-minute break. And if she's here, great. If not, we'll just work with her. But then the next scheduled appointment is not until 5:15. Okay? Very good. Thank you. We are taking a break at 4:25. Okay, let me bring our meeting back to order at 4:40. And I see that we have the next candidate on the roster in the room, Dr. Kim Shea. If you'll introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Kim Shea. I am currently serving at, as a vice chair for Park and Rec. And I'm honored to be here today, and I think I'm scared to be here. And actually, at our meetings, I'm sitting over there, and I know you can't see it, but I feel like my heart is gonna jump out of its.
Take a deep breath. You're among friends.
Thank you. You guys are such a nice audience.
Okay.
And thank you so much for being here, and I am a little bit nervous. Start. So, thank you. And I really thank all of you also serving as our mayor and city council members, because you make things happen in our city. And that's why I think I want to be sitting amongst you guys. And I think that's why I'm here, hoping that whatever I have, that I could offer my services and offer who I am to be part of the team.
Very good. Okay, Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Hi, Kim. Really great that you're here, and we're really happy to see you. Can I just give her a brief? She wasn't here for the beginning where you gave us instructions to ask the same questions. Can I just tell her about that?
Yes, you may, and thank you for asking.
Thank you. The mayor wanted us to ask the candidates the same questions. So each one of us will ask the same questions of each of the candidates. So just so you know, other people have have been asked and answered this question before. So my question is that in your application, you identify 3 critical issues within the city. And the question is, what makes you the best candidate to deal with those 3 issues? And then as a follow-up, what do you see as some of the obstacles to the solution? And you indicated that the 3 most critical issue is, number 1, the exodus of younger generations moving outside of Diamond Bar. And the second one is the businesses that are empty. And the third one is the major freeways that lead to Los Angeles, Orange County, Riverside. In other words, traffic congestion.
Yes. I think this problem has been around for a very long time. And what saddens me the most is watching the generation grow, but when they actually go off to college, they don't come back. Because there's something that's good about, there's a lot of things good with our city, but there's something still lacking. And if you, as you already know, some of the businesses and some of the shopping areas still, it's vacant, especially up north before the bowling alley and all. And it really saddens me because we live in a great city. And that's why I moved here. I moved here for safety and for education and also to raise my family here. And that's why it really breaks my heart. As far as people leaving, the young generation that I speak to, one of the things they said is that there's nothing to do in Diamond Bar. I mean, literally nothing to do. So those that come in between transition, coming home for a while before they get a job and they're going away, they basically go to Chino Hills or other cities to find something to do for fun or recreation or even dining. And thank you, Councilwoman Nancy Lyons, for doing the restaurant week, because I know that's something that we really needed. I go to other cities and I see them, I'm like, how come they have things and we don't? Because we have great restaurants here too. So that's one thing. And I'm thinking, as we fill in these businesses, the jobs will also grow. And the families will move in because they could live here and they work here instead of thinking that they have to move out of, drive away from our city to work elsewhere and come back home just to go to sleep. And just because it is a safe place to raise kids. So that's one thing. And looking at our population over the years, it hasn't grown much. So I'm thinking we have developed many things to improve, but is there something that we can do to look into bringing those young families back, because where there's young families, that's where the healthy city, that's where the healthy city start is, because they'll grow and they'll become the next mayor, next park and rec commissioners, or next traffic whatsoever. So we need to grow them. Just like Ling Ling was raised here, she grew and she moved up to the state, taking care of things. So I would love to see that happen again. My children are grown, they have grown, but they moved away. And that's what saddens me, because I'm trying to throw the hook and trying to fish them back and say, come back to the city, because it's a great place. You grew up, remember all the good things that's happened here. So that's one thing. So that's bringing the young families and also bringing the businesses back. If we could brainstorm more, and I know that you guys been working with what is that, general plan of 2040, and you have a lot of things that's in there, but I'm still wondering, is there something that we're missing that we ought to look into? And as far as traffic's concerned, I like the fact that the road's been changed to Lemon and Brea Canyon Road to kind of divert the traffic, and it's helpful, but still 57 and 60, I feel like I need to increase my life insurance every time I come across, because I'm like, okay, I'm signaling, please, please, please let me through, and it's like, I don't want to be like too assertive, but to say, hello, I live here, can I just come across? It's several lanes through, right? And I think it's still very dangerous, and I think stresses people out. So I'm thinking, is there another way where maybe we could make another overpass just for that lane as you're coming from 60 to just come over to, so like, come home. It's okay. You don't have to feel like you're going through a battle just to get across the freeway to, get back home on Grand Avenue. So that's one thing. And as far as safety is concerned, something that I was just thinking of, homeless issues, something that's kind of rampant in LA County. Recent Park and Rec meeting we had a little thing about, graffitis, and I was a little alarmed because there were 3 little parks that had graffitis, and I said, okay, it's not gonna turn into LA, is it? So I was reassured, we do have hotline, we have all that taken care of, and I'm like, oh, good. Okay, because we like visitors, but we like our residents. You could come and visit, you go, and don't leave any markings for us to study, because we don't need that, because we got our books. Okay, that was a corny joke. Okay, sorry. Okay, so, and also with what I'm noticing is a lot of people are putting Ring as their doorbell, and the things come up because people are stealing things. And I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of not a good thing that's happening. I mean, and I'm sure as we're ordering from Amazon and other things to make our lives convenient, more things are like that's gonna happen. So even to prevent, to even talk about what we could do to kind of prevent before things get worse. I'm sorry, did I answer the question or did I kind of drift off somewhere?
That's okay, you got it.
Okay.
Well, did you have any ideas on what would be some obstacles to your solutions to the issues?
To be honest, I don't know everything. And that's why I was hoping as I get my feet wet and perhaps being part of city council, getting myself to educate myself even more as far as traffic and as far as building projects and whatnot, that I can also go learn from even other cities how they're doing it. Because one of the things I had a privilege of doing is, as a Park and Rec commissioner for the past 5 years, I had 2 opportunities to actually go attend a state meeting that when they had it. So I was able to go and talk to people from other cities of what they're doing, and I said, wow, that's a fantastic idea. And one of the things is, our city, we have, 5, I think, senior groups also, and City of Newport Beach has like a fitness workout kind of place for people to come and do their workout. I know the budget is of a concern, but it's like something like that, and I thought, wow, healthy Diamond Bar, keep our seniors healthy, because we could live to be 100 and whatever, because these days we keep people, living a lot longer than ever before. No one will know how old I am. You guys kind of know, but people. So I tend to be over 100 and not look like one. So some things like that, I found a lot of good ideas as far as some of the banners and other things, and I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. Could we do that in our city? So it's like, I love meeting people too, because I'm a people person. I think that's one of my strengths, to reach out to other people, to also share what I know, but also to learn from them. And I like to see our city thrive. And I like people to talk about our city as they talk about Irvine, even in other parts of the world, because they know that they're like, oh, Irvine? It's like, how do they know Irvine? A lot of people live in Diamond Bar, but it's like, do they really know? When you mention Diamond Bar, they could say, oh, where is it? Instead of, is it in LA, they say, where is it? So I'm hoping to see that. And I know I can't fix everything, but small steps. And I wanted to try, so thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lyons.
Kim, thank you for coming today. I heard you came from Beverly Hills. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
After a therapy.
Oh, I think you have sympathy from everybody in this room, especially the council.
But look at this. I don't give up on this.
No, you did not.
And
give up.
if you look at my track records of me attending meetings, I don't miss meetings.
Thank you. So I have a question too. And can you describe a situation where you were on a board or on a panel or in a group of some kind where there was a divergent set of opinions, where one person wanted this, one person wanted that, somebody else wanted this, whether or not that happened, and whether or not those people were able to be brought together, and did you help facilitate it?
Yes, things like that happen a lot in many instances, because when people get together, they have opinions, and it's okay, because we ought to agree to disagree, but yet from that, there's some great ideas that come about, but sometimes it doesn't work well for everyone. So that's when you have to sift out what may be the best choice for everyone, because there will be polar opposites, and you're learning to walk together. It's like marriage. Husband and wife learning to walk together, that's kind of hard, and that's why a lot of conflicts arise. But I feel like if a husband and wife tie themselves together like three-legged race, and they agree upon the direction, they will get far in life. And as far as working with group, we will have conflicts, but it's like, how do you work with that? So be a good listener. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to the other person also. And also let person A know person B is allowed to have that voice to speak also. And just be open-minded. Just step back for a moment. And it's not about you and your opinion. You might have the best idea, but everybody has to agree upon that journey to go together. So we had moments like that, but we have come to agree and say, okay, how about we do this much of what you're saying, and how about this portion? So we add it all together, where everybody voted on and say, hey, that sounds pretty good. So we went with that. So nobody complained, because they got part of their ideas heard, and some of it got implemented, not 100%, but it was good enough where they were satisfied to say, we're good, and we'll work as a team and get this thing done.
Councilman Chow.
Thank you, Mayor. Kim, thanks for being here. I do remember all times on the Park and Rec Commission together, and thank you for always being so patient and so willing to share. So again, thanks for being here. We're going to ask the same question. So I think one of the core function of the council members is to make difficult decisions, and some of them might be controversial. So as a potential council member, how do you navigate that, and how do you reconcile sometimes when you make a decision, it will affect part of the city, but not necessarily the other part, and everyone's passionate about the cause. So how do you navigate and reconcile the difference between different groups within the city?
So could you give me a little more specific example? Are you saying that if working as a council member, one council member has
No, not necessarily. So it has to more do with the city. So if you're making a decision on, for example, a development project, and some are for it, some are against it, so how do you reconcile the different opinion from both sides of the resident that you represent both of them?
Okay, well, I believe that everybody should be able to say what's in their mind. However, it's not only for those few people, it's for everyone. So the outcome has to be for the good of the whole. And those few that might have a difference in opinion is going to have to be able to accept that. And that's how I see it.
So Kim, we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month, as long as there's business to be considered. Are there any current or future obligations that you have that might conflict with your duties or your ability to serve as a council member?
No.
And you would be, if you were chosen, you would be assigned, say, as a delegate to Foothill Transit or the COG or League of Cities. Anything that would prevent you from fulfilling that role?
I actually have done many of those type of commitments in the past, because beyond our city limits, I have been involved with Chamber of Commerce for about 20 years or so, and with that, they have sent me out to other organizations and other places where I was to be the ambassador or representative of the organization that I was involved in. So that wouldn't be a problem. Besides, I love meeting people. I love doing PR. So I mean, please, take me.
Anything else that you would like to share with us tonight?
You know what? I'm honored.
Take a deep breath.
I am truly honored, especially with things I have been going through past year. It has given me different perspective, and I began to cherish things a lot more than I have ever done before. I didn't know if I was going to come to do the city council thing, but I said to myself, you know, if I don't have a lot of time and things are important, I'm not going to put that aside. So I decided, okay, I told you guys I was feeling nervous and whatnot, but I decided to take the boldness to come forth, because I said, it's an honor to serve the community. It's an honor to serve people that you live around. And I love seeing people thrive. And that's why I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. And it's been a privilege. And it's been such a great experience living in Diamond Bar for past 28 years. And that's why I'm like, this sounds weird, if I should perish anytime soon, I want to be able to contribute something. So at least in my heart, as I finish my days, I say, hey, I did something. I touched people's lives. I met someone. I shook their hands. And I told them, thank you. You've done a great job and whatnot. So that's why I am here. And I thank you. This wasn't supposed to happen.
Thank you, Kim. I know how far you came and how difficult that was, and no perishing on our watch. And may God extend the number of your days. We appreciate you being here. Okay, that brings us to, yes, you may sit down, thank you. Our next candidate, it's 5 o'clock now, and that's scheduled for 5:15, but I see Jennifer Malke, and if you're prepared, we can begin. If you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Malke, but I answer to Fred thanks to an older brother nicknaming me when I was quite a bit younger. I am originally from South Sacramento. My husband and I moved to Southern California about 25 years ago. For him, it was a return home. For me, it was not. It was scary and intimidating. We've lived in Diamond Bar for almost 21 years. We've been fortunate enough to raise our boys here. They went through Pomona Unified School District and did all of the activities that they could possibly do, from t-ball to dance to swim. Their first jobs were in the community, the whole thing, which gave my husband and I a lot of opportunities to volunteer. So we've been in classrooms and on sports fields and at fundraisers, which we've really loved the community in Diamond Bar. In terms of my career, I'm a communications professor at Cal Poly Pomona. I primarily teach public speaking, advocacy, and argumentation, and then this public relations event planning class, but I have extensive experience teaching persuasion, intercultural, and interpersonal communication. I also advise a a fraternity on campus, and I teach in the Teaching Academy for professors, helping other instructors hone their craft, because education is really important to me. And then for the last 10 years or so, I've been a Diamond Bar representative on several commissions. My first one was actually WICA. I didn't include it on my application because we never had meetings. So I was seated, and then I never went anywhere. So technically, I guess that counts. But primarily, I've spent my time on traffic and transportation. And then I've been on the Planning Commission since 2015, and I've served on chair and vice chair on both of those. And I'm just excited to be here today, so thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Lyons.
Fred, Jennifer, thank you for coming today. And each of us is going to ask each applicant the same question. So I know you weren't here at the very beginning, but you should know that everybody gets these same questions.
Thank you.
So can you describe a situation where you were serving on a board or a panel in some kind of a group where there were divergent opinions on an issue, and whether or not the people were able to come together on it, how it happened, you know?
Absolutely, thank you. Having been on boards through the city for the last 10 years, I've certainly had the experience where we don't necessarily agree. The benefit of being on a commissioner seat is that we have like this extensive educated staff who we can usually ask pointed questions to, and they can educate all of us at the same time, which is great. And I've worked with, and he's in the room, so it's sort of awkward, but for Director Liu and with Director Goodman, and they never just say yes or no. They educate everyone. So in terms of ensuring that everybody has the same information, I'm usually one of the ones that ask questions just to make sure that we all have the same definition of things and that we all have the same understanding of the process and what our options are. So I do like to be in sort of a mediator role, which is not a surprise as a communication instructor, because I know how important that is. And I believe in the education. Outside of Planning Commission, I've absolutely sat on boards where we don't get the opportunity to have an educated staff in. And sometimes it is about ensuring that everybody has a voice heard, and that we work towards not necessarily identifying who's right or wrong, but what our options for solutions are. And I teach argumentation and advocacy, and one of the first things that I tell my students when they say, I'm really great at arguing, I go, cool, we're not doing that. Our job is, and it's been identified for years, that argumentation doesn't want to be right or wrong, it wants to find solutions. And the best way to find solutions is to gather the most information you can, and then figure out what's best for everyone involved. And so I think that oftentimes that's sort of my role, is to sort of, I'm not particularly invested in being right or wrong, I just want to make sure everybody's heard, and we understand what our options are to make the best solution. Thank you.
Councilman Chow.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here. Wanted to ask you again the same question. So I think one of the core function of the council members who make decisions, and much like what you've been doing on the Planning Commission, and sometimes those decisions might be difficult or even controversial. So as a potential council member, how do you reconcile that difference between your opinion and that of the sometimes community, sometimes your fellow council members? How do you reconcile that?
I reconcile that by knowing that sometimes the pieces of information that I have might be greater than people that might be invested in small portions of it. So when we get, and we're lucky, we get community members that are Planning Commission. I actually love it when they come because they always try and educate us. But sometimes they don't have a greater idea of like big picture or an understanding. And I enjoy when people are invested and passionate about what impacts their neighborhood, but I can reconcile decisions that I help make for their neighborhood by listening to them, understanding what their concerns is, being empathetic about it, but then also understanding that their concerns live in the big picture of what Diamond Bar needs to serve. And so I can feel okay, and we've had plenty, even some recently, where people are very unhappy with the decisions that we've made. And I think it's important that they tell us that, but I always hope that they'll listen to us explain why we've made the decision that we've made, and that sometimes it might impact their neighborhood, but it's a greater good service.
Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Hi, Fred, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
My question is concerning the three critical issues that you identify as issues for Diamond Bar, and you've identified 3 issues. And the question is, what makes you the best candidate to deal with these issues that you've identified? And what you told us you thought were critical were, number 1, traffic, number 2, empty business buildings, and then number 3, our sense of community. So what about what makes you the best person to address these issues? And then if you can, also address what do you think are some of the obstacles to achieving solutions?
Of course, thank you. I'll start with traffic because that's what everybody's really concerned about. I'm a good person to handle traffic because I understand that when we talk about traffic, oftentimes in this room and other rooms in the city, we can't change that people want to drive through our town. Like, we can try and be unwelcoming. It's just not our nature. So we can't change that. But I understand that and it's not even a fix, but the way to address traffic oftentimes has to put us in the position of advocating for our city outside of our city limits. So we're restricted. We can talk about decisions that we make within our city to a certain extent, but at some point we have to advocate for our city at the state and federal level, and I think that's sort of where we're at traffic-wise. I learned quite a bit when I was working with traffic and transportation, so I know that in terms of what would create a conflict, in that it's the people who don't have to drive on these roads that it doesn't impact. They don't see the benefit to it. They don't see the sense of urgency. And why I think that I would be great at handling that is that I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate at heart. I'm someone who would want to stand up and educate people on what it's like to be in Diamond Bar and how we need them to help us resolve this problem. Because although we can mitigate it with certain things, and we've been able to do that in some places with Willow Heights and hopefully what will happen with the new hotel site, we can't fix it. It's a California problem. It's a Southern California problem. And I love giving speeches, and I'm passionate. So I would love to be someone to try to convince, especially at the state and federal level, that they need to pick us. They need to help us be better about how we can handle traffic. The second item was business, loss of business. And this is a tough one because there's this perception that city council should do something about business, and we don't own the property, we don't raise the rent, we don't do those types of things, although we can certainly try and woo businesses and try and make it more compatible for them. I know that we're sort of restricted on this, so I think something that creates conflict there or creates an obstacle is the idea that there is a perception that Diamond Bar is rich. And so they want to raise rents and get a lot of money for lease, and so that leaves us with some storefronts. But I think some of the more creative options, like the Phoenix Suites that just opened up in the Sprout Center, I think that's incredibly smart. It's multi-business owners, individual owners in one area. And I think if we think progressively about those things, we'll have some options and opportunities that might not have been necessarily available business-wise for us. Why I think I'd be good at handling that is that I am a person who likes to put people together. I like to listen to people, and then I go, oh, you would be great with this person. Again, it's that communication background of me, and so I can see sometimes where places or options will show up for us. And I also think it's important for us to be thoughtful about the ways in which we're progressive. And again, it's that idea of gathering information. So I think I'd be a great advocate for choosing the appropriate businesses to help us fill the spots that we need to fill as we continue to grow as Diamond Bar. That way they suit the needs of our people. And then that last one is the Diamond Bar way of life. This one's tough for me because I love sort of that Hallmark movie, city, hometown feel that we get. One of my favorite things to tell people about Diamond Bar is about our birthday party, because I think it's fantastic, and my husband always gets a steak sandwich, and it's the same cars, and we go see the preschool booth that my kids went to, and we get to see the teachers and that type of thing. And that Diamond Bar way of life, I think, is problematic because we want to be able to serve our people and our city well, so we need to be progressive and thoughtful about what we do in the city. But on the other hand, there's people that sort of I still want it to feel like that hometown. It's something that I think our staff has been really, really good about doing. So I think the only obstacle is that sometimes we need to educate people and ask them just to give us a chance. Trust us. We've hired the experts. We've brought the people in. Let us have the opportunity to show you that this can still be beneficial to the city, even though it looks different and it feels different. We can still ensure that that looks and feels still like Diamond Bar while still being able to offer services. And I think I'm good at that because I have a good worldview. And again, I keep coming back to the idea that I'm a communicator, but I really do. I'm an empathetic listener. And I'm still very attached to my hometown. When I just went to Sacramento recently to see my parents, I sleep in the same bedroom I have slept in my entire life with rainbow blinds. I don't like change. And I like that idea of home. But I think it's important for us as Diamond Bar to change people's minds so that we can offer goods and services to people, that they can stay within our city limits. They can come home. They don't have to go get on a freeway. But then we also need to continue to offer the opportunities that the city does so well with the council members and the commissioners and, of course, the staff, where we also want to ride a Ferris wheel and have a funnel cake with our neighbors. So I think that can be preserved if we're thoughtful and purposeful about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month if there's business to be considered. Are there any current or future obligations that might conflict with your duties or ability to serve as a council member?
Yes. I am actually presenting at a work conference in Greece for the April 21st meeting. So I can't fly
So
back
you-
for that one. I'm going to pick Greece.
You are going to pick Greece. I
I
just
am
need to
gonna
hear
pick
you
Greece.
say it publicly.
Pick work
Okay.
conference
All
for
right.
Greece. So I do have that. Other than that, I don't have any other conference.
Very
That
good.
one's already scheduled.
And then council members are assigned different committees, different delegate to different organizations, Contract City, League of Cities, COG, JPIA. Is there anything that would interfere with your participating in that manner?
No. Actually, my work schedule is particularly conducive to this. I teach 5 classes at Cal Poly, but I'm only on campus 2 days a week. And so right now my schedule is I teach 7 a.m. to 2:15, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I teach in the Teaching Academy every other Friday or so if they need me. And then I do some city stuff. So, and my kids are grown and my husband's busy. And, you know, I walk the dog and then I'm pretty open, so.
So we advocate on a regular basis in Washington, D.C. and in Sacramento. You wouldn't have any problem making the time for that?
No.
Great, very good. Anything else you would like to share with us?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I was raised in a household where you just sort of put your head down and you did your work and you didn't worry about moving up and that type of thing. And the idea that I could be city council has never sort of been anything that I considered, mostly because I was always happy with the representation that we've had in the city. I've never felt like my voice was unheard, and I've always felt like there was a place for me sort of in the room and at the table. So this opportunity just to even be considered is really exciting. So I appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Very good. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us at 5:12 or 5:13 to our next candidate. However, I've had about a half gallon of water, and if I don't take a health break right now, I'm going to embarrass myself. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order at 5:17 and call up our last candidate, Andrew Wong. If you would please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Honorable Mayor, Honorable City Council, good evening. My name is Andrew Wong. A little bit about myself. So I grew up in Huntington Beach. I've been a resident of Diamond Bar for about 12 years, married for 15. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, emphasis in accounting from Cal State Long Beach. As far as my professional experience, or my experience professionally, I've been in banking for about 20 years, 3 years in retail banking, 17 years in business banking as an underwriter, as a portfolio manager, and as a credit underwriting manager. The reason why I've even applied for this position is because 12 years ago when we moved to Diamond Bar, we loved Diamond Bar right from the get-go. Diamond Bar is a bedroom community, and we with our 3 young kids, we would love to see that our city continue to be a bedroom community. Given that there are changes in dynamics in terms of resources as technology continues to change, we need to be agile. Oh, pardon me? Oh, okay. So, so my desire to serve is a combination of just preservation, but also just wanting to give back to the community. I believe I have some unique experiences and skills that could provide a different type of dynamic that would serve well for our city.
Thank you. Councilman Chow.
Thank you, Mayor. Good name, by the way, for a council member.
Thank you, sir.
And he's not Senator Chang's husband, just
No,
so we're
I'm not.
clear. Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you for your service on the Traffic and Transportation Commission. So it's the same question that we ask all the other candidates. So as a potential council member, we do make difficult decisions and sometimes controversial. So how do you describe to us your decision-making process, especially when it comes to a difficult decision? And how do you reconcile the difference between different groups of people who are very vocal about what they care about?
So how I reconcile that is I gather a lot of information. I do a lot of research. So first off, I do listen, and I want to listen to. I mean, if it's a vocal group, I do want to hear them, because what they may have to say may be absolutely right, and that needs to be taken into consideration. And in addition to gathering more information, I do a ton of research. I can be a bit of a nerd when it comes to research. I will study and try to understand, even if it's something that I don't have the experience personally or professionally from, but I will learn and become that subject matter expert. So I will gather as much information personally, or in terms of just, and also listening to the public, and then from there, while it's a tough decision, I'll make that decision, whether it's against that vocal voice, or whether it's in concurrence with them. And if it is against that vocal voice, I would definitely communicate a ton, in terms of an explanation justifying how I arrived to that decision.
Councilwoman Lowe.
Thank you. Hi, Andrew. Nice to be here. I think it's a great name, too. I've got a son named with that name, so. This question is related to the 3 most critical issues facing the city that you've identified in your application. And the question is, what makes you the best candidate to address those issues? And the 3 critical issues that you've identified are economic development, public safety, and budgetary management. So how would you, what makes you the best candidate to address these 3 issues? And if you can, address what you think would be some of the obstacles to success in addressing these issues.
So the first one is economic development. And in my view, economic development has to do with the businesses that are within our city, within our community. and working with them. I think being a business banker for so many years and working with small businesses that start from the ground up, or more sophisticated businesses that are, you know, that are on the verge of being a Fortune 1000 company, I understand how to plan and how to start up a business, or how to maintain or take a business to the next level, how to obtain additional capital if they qualify for that, and if they're able to maintain that type of business. So a lot of small businesses, from what I've seen, the first 2 years is that threshold in terms of whether they're going to make it, pass, or fail. And so it's critical. It's critical to maintain a solid foundation, and that's how in terms of planning. So planning has to do with budget, finance, understanding that some small business owners, they don't even plan for that. They don't even have an idea. They just go off of whatever they have in their savings and just hope and pray that, you know, things will work out, you know, because they have a really great product to offer. But the reality and the practicality of things is just preparation. And so I think, given my professional experience and what I have to offer, I mean, is just engaging these small businesses that want to be a part of our community and working with them at the grassroots level. So that addresses the first one, sorry. The second one has to do with public safety. I don't know, this may be just subjective in my view, but I've noticed an uptick in terms of the homeless population. I can't verify that if that's accurate or not, but it just, from a perception standpoint, at least from the northern part of Diamond Bar, I see more homeless folks, transients, if you would, that seem to be, a lot more compared to 10 years ago, if you would. So maybe it's because of the advent of social media, but there's an increased awareness of crime, of vandalism, within our city and community, and that's of concern to me, because information, if it can breed fear, bad information. So if it's a criminal type of, if it's vandalism, and it increases our awareness, then it may make our city look less desirable as a bedroom community, if you would. And then lastly, the third point about budget, maintaining a solid budget. I recognize our city has done a wonderful job in managing its finances, but it's still critical to always be vigilant, because the next following year, if we take it for granted, we could be facing deficits, we could be facing a depletion in our reserves. And so it's always a constant, we always constantly need to be vigilant on that matter.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lyons.
Andrew, thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming. Yeah. Can you describe a situation where you were serving on a board or a panel or some kind of a group where there were divergent opinions, one wanted black, one wanted white, one wanted yellow, whatever, and whether or not the group was able to come together and make a decision, and how that happened?
Well, thankfully, during my 1 year, or almost 1 year at serving in the Traffic and Transportation Commission, I mean, it's been pretty straightforward, in terms of opinions and voting. However, my experiences in terms of serving on a board or leadership, one comes to mind is my church. We recently passed a budget for 2020, and there was a divergent group, a very vocal group, in terms of how much staffing we should have. And I believed, given that the strength of our reserves, and given, so the reason why that divergent view came about was because through the 9 months of 2019, we were looking at a deficit. And I kept explaining to the group that there's the way this church works is, and I think a lot of churches, there's a lot of cash seasonality. So it's not like you're gonna get income like clockwork. It's not like you're on a payroll and you're gonna get paid every 2 weeks and you could expect it. With businesses, with organizations, nonprofit organizations, with churches, you're going to experience a lot of seasonality. So 1 month you're going to get a lot of giving in the example of a church, and then the next month you won't get any, and so or very minimal. I didn't mean to sound very alarming there. And so through the first 9 months of that year, I tried to communicate to the congregation that, yes, we are experiencing a deficit, but it's a seasonal part of that fiscal year, and we're going to close out this year strong. They wanted to pass a budget in October, November. I told them, traditionally we do, but I told them let's hold off, let's give it some time, and so we passed the budget in January, and there were no cuts in staffing. In fact, we increased hours on one particular staff member, which was a key member in terms of our church administration. And we closed the year in 2019 with a pretty generous surplus, with all-time highs in terms of revenue.
So, as you may have heard, we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month if there's business to be taken care of. Anything in your current or future obligations that might conflict with your duties or your ability to serve as a city council member?
No, sir.
And you would be involved in different organizations as a delegate, whether that, again, is Foothill Transit or JPIA. Is there anything there that might be conflict? I realize you work in La Habra, so it's pretty close. So job-wise, there's no interference there?
No.
If you were encouraged to advocate in Sacramento or Washington, D.C., you could be part of that team?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I'd just like to share that, well, thank you first and foremost for your service, whether your staff or you're serving on the council. Thank you very much for your servant leadership. It's a great honor to even be considered here. And whether I'm considered for this position or not, I hope that I would find a way to be able to serve one way or another. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, so at 5:30 we are done with our interviews. I think if anybody would have been willing to put down a bet, they would have lost that bet. I didn't hear you. What? Never. Let me be honest. I did hear you, but I never get tired of hearing it. Okay, so at our meeting in January 7th, council took action to begin the process to fill the vacancy created by Councilmember Herrera's resignation. We had a total of 10 applications. Tonight we interviewed 8 people. I think it's fascinating to me that there were 5 commissioners. I think we have just such a very, very strong bench of people, a strong talent pool to choose from. It's a great bench, great talent, great experience. We lose a lot with the absence of Councilwoman Herrera, 24 years on our council, 16 years prior to that with the school board, Walnut Valley Unified School Board. And I think it's critical that we have somebody that has the experience dealing with the city, whether it's one commission or 2 or 3. I'm looking at the different notes that I made, and I realized the least amount of residents in the community is 12 years. And the most, I think it was, I wrote down lifelong, but I think I heard 45 years. So that's not a criteria for I want Andrew Wong to know being a newbie here isn't a criteria. And the experience is just marvelous. But I do think that one candidate stands out more than all of the others relative to activity in Diamond Bar, whether that's on commissions or in the schools or in local programs that she's been involved in. And I would be prepared to make the motion that we appoint Jennifer Fred Mulkey to the position once we figure out what she wants to be called.
Question. Point of procedure. Can we go over the procedure real quick? So just for us and for them to understand kind of how we're going about this?
Sure. Mr. Fox, Mr. DeBerry, who wants that?
Sure.
By the way, do we need a second before we do that?
You can have a second and then have discussions. Either way is fine.
Go ahead and explain it. to Councilman Chow's request.
Yes, so it's a pretty simple procedure. The city council can engage in whatever length or of discussions it wants about the city council. And then the procedure from there is for somebody on the city council to make a nomination, if you will, to appoint a council member. That nomination must receive a second to get voted on. And if it does get voted on after the second, then the council can have a discussion about that particular candidate to the extent you desire. And then we'll take a roll call vote.
Very good. Did that answer your question procedurally? Very good. So we have a motion on the floor.
Well, Mayor, for the purposes of opening up the discussion, why don't I go ahead and second that so that we can all discuss the nomination? Would that be all right?
So we have a motion by Ty, second by Lowe. Any discussion? Anybody would like to?
Well, let me just say
Yes.
that it's really been a privilege to be here, to talk with each of you and be part of this this discussion of where our city goes next. It was so touching. I just feel like a certain kind of intimacy that we have, despite that, it's a big group. And that's probably because of the people that have come forward. And I just made some notes as I was listening to each of you as you talked about serving on the city council. And some of my notes are that each of you have passion, desire to serve, and you are looking for ways to use your skills to better Diamond Bar. And it was evident in all of your comments that you truly love Diamond Bar, you love where you live, and you want it to continue that way. Each of you have a history of community service. Some of your service goes back decades, and that's really impressive. And, I don't see any of you as just talkers, but you're doers, and not simply doers, but really diligent, really hardworking, leaving no stone unturned. Some of you mentioned that, you would do a ton of research, you'll listen, you'll reach out, and you'll think, and you'll analyze. It's a lot of work, but you said that you would do that, so that's really impressive. You talked about working with other people, working on your prior boards, and working within a system. And I thought that each of you were articulate, you were smart, you were engaging, you had a positive attitude toward our city, and some of you were actually funny and you had a sense of humor. And in this job, trust me, you surely need that. And I really appreciate the candor with which you spoke, and that really was evident. And I think that's one of the qualities of our council, is that we try to be candid and share our thoughts and express how we feel and draw in other people. And I think each of you have done that. And finally, you were thoughtful and purposeful in the things that you've spoken. So for that, I just want to say thank you to each one of you for giving us the benefit of your thoughts and sharing with us. And thank you for serving our community. The commissioners, thank you for your years-long service. We appreciate having you on our community.
Any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I would echo Councilmember Lowe's comments in terms of the quality of applicants that we heard from tonight. Everybody was just, really of high quality and did so much community service. Now, of course, out of the 8 of you, we're only going to be able to pick 1. However, I hope that the other 7 of you really stay more involved or, engage with the city even more in the future. And you come to the concerts in the park, you do the hiking trails, the Healthy Diamond Bar, the commission meetings, or if something's coming up for the planning commission or the council, that you come and express your opinion. Because, you're all very valuable, members of our community, and we want to see you more. So thank you for coming.
Councilman Chow.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more comment along the same line. So first, I do want to thank all of you for being here. I know this is it's been a long process, and a lot of you, your preparation's evident, and I do appreciate your service to the city. And just keep in mind also that being on the city council is not the only way to serve the city, as most of you know, serving on commission. And just to echo what Councilmember Lyons said, we can only pick 1. And we all have, our vision for the city. But at the end of the day, we are here for the betterment of the city, for our community. And just as my question posed to all of you earlier, you know, there are times where we don't all agree, but that's okay, because that's what democracy is, and we're here to serve the community. And whatever decision we come to, I hope it's not a disappointment to you. I hope you continue to find ways to serve the city that we all love, that we all call home, and we'd love to see you in the future at different events. Thank you.
So I would agree with what you just said as relative to the betterment of our community. That's what we all want, obviously, and we've got people that are interested in seeing that going forward. I mean, this is the stack of information that you guys all filled out, the letters of interest and your different involvements, and it's very impressive. So even though I said we had 5 commissioners that were interested, I think that there's a great opportunity for others that have expressed interest as well in serving the community in one way or another. So I cannot thank you all enough for being here. Can't thank you enough for putting yourself out there and seeing what might come of it. So thanks again. So we have a motion and a second. If you'll call the roll, please.
Councilmember Chow?
No.
Councilmember Lowe?
As to the motion to appoint Commissioner Malky, I noticed that in reading the applications, she is one of among 5 commissioners that have applied for the position. And I believe that it's really important for a person on the city council to have prior experience working within our city system. And a commissioner, being a commissioner, actually does serve that purpose. You really get a different view of what you need to do, how things work, and how complex issues are. So I appreciate that in having a commissioner take this role. Secondly, of the 5 commissioners, I noticed that Commissioner Malky has served in both the Traffic and Transportation Commission as well as the Planning Commission, and she did that over a period of 9 years. And that's impressive, and that's dedication, not just once a month, but as over 9 years, and Planning Commission is twice a month. So that is a substantial amount of time that she's devoted to the city of Diamond Bar. And during the time that she sat on the Planning Commission, those decisions are not easy. There's a lot of flack that goes on. There's a lot of difficulties. There's a lot of heartache, and there's a lot of heartache on everybody. And for someone to navigate through that, you need special patience, you need special listening skills, you need special empathy, and I think that Commissioner Malky has demonstrated that in her service on the Planning Commission. So I would say yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lyons?
Without a long preamble, I'll say yes.
Mayor Tai?
Yes. So on a vote of 3-1, we have appointed Jennifer Fred Malky to the Diamond Bar City Council. Okay, it is 5:40. I can probably beat my wife home before. Yes, I do. Do we need to do that before we adjourn? Okay. Ms. Malky, if you would come forward and take the oath of office.
I, Jennifer Malky, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you. It made me a little weepy. Do I stop there?
There's no crying in councilhood,
Oh, well,
okay?
I might need to leave already then. Thank you.
Would you like to say anything, Councilwoman Malky?
I am overwhelmed. I appreciate the opportunity to serve our city. I said this in my personal statement. My parents always told us that you have to give of your time and talent. That's your job. That's how you make the world better. You just give of your time and talent. You figure out what you're good at, and then you just sprinkle it all over the place and hope that it makes a difference. And the opportunities that Diamond Bar has given me to figure out the places that I belong have been incredible over the last 2 decades. If I tell you that I struggled in high school, I barely made it out. This was not any type of plan at all for my life. And so the opportunities to learn how to give back in such a meaningful way has been incredibly life-changing for me. And I've been able to role model it for my kids and my students, and I have an incredibly supportive husband who says, babe, just go change the world in whatever way you can. And so I don't have, ironically, a communication professor. I don't have the words to tell you how honored and privileged I am to have this opportunity. So thank you for your faith in me. Thank you for the support of the city and the staff that has helped me learn and be educated on what this role can mean. And I will do my best.
Okay, no opportunity sprinkling on the city council, okay?
I'm gonna sprinkle a little.
Appreciate it.
I am, it's gonna happen.
All right, thank you very, very much. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Councilwoman Malky. And at 5:44, we are adjourned.
Can I just go home and make dinner? I just go home and make. Good, then I don't have to make dinner? Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you came in and